Jimmy has 242 stamps. Joan has 116 stamps. They each give the same number of stamps to Alan. Joan now has two-fifths as many stamps as Jimmy. How many stamps did Alan receive from each? Hmm. Now, I'm going to work on this problem visually. And let me write down the two names, Jimmy and Joan. Now, I'm going to start with the scenario where they have given the same number of stamps to Alan. What happened after each gave Alan the same number of stamps? The question says Joan now has two-fifths as many stamps as Jimmy. So what I'm going to do, let's say this is what Jimmy ended up having. This is what Jimmy was left with. Well, each square represents the same number of stamps, okay? A square is not a stamp. It represents the total number of stamps. Now, Joan was left with two-fifths as many as Jimmy. Now, the colors here don't make a huge difference. All the squares are worth the same number. Now, I'm going to use blue for Joan and yellow for Jimmy for no good reasons. All right. So this is what they ended up having after they gave the same number of stamps to Ellen. I don't know how many stamps were given to Ellen. I don't know. Okay. But I do know one thing. If Joan gave 50 stamps to Ellen, Jimmy must have given 50 stamps to Ellen, so on and so forth. Okay. They match. So what I'm going to do, let's say this circle represents the number of stamps each gave to Ellen. Okay? I don't know what the circle represents. The two circles, they're identical, even though they have two different colors. Now, the question is this. This must be 116 because that's what Joan had. And this must represent 242. 242. Now, what can we do with picture? Now, two squares in a circle all together represent 116 stamps. And the same statement holds for the two squares here and the circle here. With me so far? So I'm going to take 242, subtract 116. I'll do it here. 242 minus 116. I'm getting 126. 126, let me write it down. Excuse me. So what this tells me, and this is what you really want to understand, 126 must be what these three yellow squares are worth. You really want to get it, okay? This must be worth 126. Why? Two squares and a circle together are worth 116. So here, two squares and a circle must also be worth 116. When you subtract 116 from 242, you get 126. Three squares must be worth 126. Well, if three squares are worth 126, one square must be worth 126 divided by 3, which turns out to be 42. Each square must be worth 42. I would like to know how much money, how many stamps were given by Joan. It's the same number was given by Jimmy. How do I find that? Well, take a look at this one. This is 42, this is 42, and the whole thing is 116. So I'm going to take 116, subtract 42 twice, and that will give me the value of the circle. I'm going to use my calculator. Again, 116 minus 42, 42. What should I get? 32. So this is equal to 32. So Joan gave 32 stamps, and Jimmy also gave 32 stamps because they gave the same number of stamps. So I'm going to write my answer as 32. Finished. So a good picture can help you solve complicated problems. Now, this is a middle school problem. You can do it by writing equations, but I like to do things visually. I hope that helps.